everybody. And I put in the chat box. I think we have Linda. You joined us since I added that. If you'd like to add where you're zooming in from and what's keeping you going during as we're leading up toward the holidays. Um, some people put family and friends, pickleball, a trip coming up, which is really, I think, important. And I think that that is such a really, really, which is just the epitome of what we're doing together today, is having a sense of hope, having a sense of something that we're moving toward, right? It gives us a sense of purpose, a sense of meaning. And that is definitely a key element in healing and caregiving, and a component of mindfulness as well. So this ability to have something in the future that we're slowly moving toward. I heard an analogy or metaphor rather of we want to be able to drop an anchor and slowly be pulling ourselves there. And so if you can have that visual, that it's day by day, moment by moment, hopefully that gives you that sense of edification. Yeah, so thank you. Oh, Christmas decorations is something else someone's looking forward to. And I actually texted my son this morning saying, "Can we go get our tree tonight?" So I'm looking forward to kind of cultivating sort of a spirit um, of giving, really. So I'm looking forward to that as well. So I know she introduced me, but for those of you that are new today, I think there might be one or two, and welcome. I see another one just joining us. Um, I'm Melissa, and I'm with Caregiver Wellness Resources. And I've been doing this for several years with Cedarhurst and partnering. So it's really lovely to see people returning and coming back time after time to the recordings, and hopefully finding some resourcing through that. And today, my hope and my intention for us in gathering is to keep it really simple. I think all of the various topics that I presented on, I think it's important to remember that mindfulness is really about the present moment and not overcomplicating things. One of my favorite questions to ask, especially right around this like this time of wintering here in North America, this time of kind of feeling like things are both slowing down and speeding up, right? Whether you're getting ready for a vacation or getting ready for family or needing to do extra shopping or needing to do extra responsibilities, it's really important to kind of take this time of reflection and also offer opportunities for renewal. And my favorite question to ask is, who are you without all of the doing? And so we've done a little bit of journaling the last couple of sessions, and I'd like to return to that. So if you've got a pen and a piece of paper, I'd love for you to take a moment um, to jot it down. It can be really more free form. It can be in the form of a picture. It can be abbreviations. No, this is just for you. It's not for anyone else. But asking yourself and reflecting, who am I without all of the doing? And some of you may interpret that as all the different hats that you wear. So if you, as a caregiver, you wear sort of that role and identity. If you're working, you have that role and identity. If you are a daughter or a son, a sibling, an aunt, an uncle, a parent, you have all of these different identities and roles. You may even have other identities, volunteer, um, helper. You might be the person who tends to take charge of things, like coordinate big things or coordinate things for the family or logistically do things. You might be sort of what we would call like this manager type. You might also be the kind of person that gets a little stressed or anxious around the holidays. Maybe you're constantly future tripping or looking forward. So what is that like? Or maybe you're someone we talked about last week, that future tripper and rear view mirror person. Maybe you're the rear view mirror person. Maybe the holidays bring some sadness. And so you do the doing to not feel that. So let's take maybe just 2 more minutes. And who are you? So who am I without all of the doing? When you set that aside, what's underneath? You can ask yourself, what do I value? I value connection. I value time. I value having the resources to do what I want to do. I value honesty, truth, or integrity, or accountability, generosity, reliability. Like knowing who we are and what we value helps us understand who we are without all the busyness. So I'll be quiet here the next minute and a half and let you journal. Maybe about 30 more seconds. Right. So starting to wrap that up. And if there's anyone who wants to kind of share, you can type that into the chat box. You're welcome to unmute yourself. I'll offer some that I wrote just now. Who I am without the doing. I'm peaceful. I'm more relaxed. I'm at home in myself. I'm enough. That's a big one. I'm more patient. I'm more kind. I'm quiet. Yeah. It's like sort of the opposite of my on persona. Yeah. Anyone else want to share who they are without all the doing? Or maybe one thing that, like, whoa, this exercise really kind of shined a light on something I haven't thought about in a while.
For me, I wrote down being able to enjoy life. So, like when without all the doing, when you're able to pause and take time for yourself or time for the things that you enjoy outside of, like, for me, it's like work and school and things like that. But outside of that, when I can just be with family and friends or my dog on a walk outside, those are the moments that really bring me peace. So, that's what I thought about.
That's beautiful. Yeah. So, one of the things that kind of sifts to the top for me when I hear you say that is um, you're probably enjoying the life even while you're doing, like, more than you even realize. Or maybe it shines a light on, ooh, I see how I can weave in more of these things that are less busy so that I can feel like I'm really living and not just like speeding. Yeah. Yeah. And that's what I got out of writing that is like, gosh, I'm enough. Like I don't have to try so hard, even as I'm doing all the doing. Like it can just be enough in that moment. And that's a really, really beautiful reflection, I think, for me today. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. If anyone else has something to share, I would love for you to add that to the chat box. Just going to pull up. It is not wanting to pull up there. All right. There it goes. Okay. Yeah. So our little menu for today is to have a little bit of um, an idea of what mindfulness is, a quick review of that, looking at some of the benefits. We'll just move quickly through that, and some simplicity of what you can do to incorporate mindfulness, especially as like things are getting kind of ramping up for family or holiday time, or maybe for alone time. Maybe it's a time where you're not able to like do the things you used to do, or there's some grief there as well. So we'll talk about all of this. And I noticed that my image is a little bit fuzzy here, so it's a little clearer on one side of the screen. There's three components. I love having this kind of visual of how things really intersect with mindfulness. Intentions, and that's made of like when we're intentional of being in the present moment and noticing our thoughts, our sensations, and our emotions. And we talk a lot about this in each of our different sessions. It's such a key component to actually experiencing a sense of embodiment as opposed to always being up at the cognitive level. Your body actually tells you first what you're sensing. And then the thought happens second. If you experience the thought before the sensation, there's nothing wrong with you. It's just maybe we're not attuned to what our body is informing us. Meaning um, we might notice a little sense of anxiousness, like stomach kind of churning a little bit, or heaviness or heavy heartedness. And then there's this thought, I'm sad, I'm lonely, or, oh gosh, I'm worried about something coming up. And we might just recognize the thought first. But the more we start to pay attention to what those thoughts are, we can also tie it in and tune it into what's happening, what we call somatically in our body. And why that's important is because your body is so intelligent. Your body is so smart. It is constantly feeding you information about how to emotionally regulate and cope. And it is constantly seeking a state of homeostasis, this state of peace or calm, the you without the doing. That's what it's constantly striving for. And so if you can gently remind yourself of that. And some of that might mean setting clear intentions um, to cultivate awareness and keep coming back to it. The time to practice mindfulness is before you need it. So you're here, which is really great. So this is a great opportunity to practice it. Other ways that I consciously remember or remind myself to practice it is um, is to set aside intentional time when I'm not feeling activated, when I'm not either feeling sad or having those thoughts about the past, or I'm not moving forward into the future. It's when I'm in the present moment. And that is the time to practice, and when things are not stressful. And then that way you've practiced a skill enough that when it gets stressful, you recall to do it. Awareness, and that's what we're looking for. So how do we intentionally choose awareness? That example I gave you earlier, when you have the thought, there's a technique that I use a lot called first thought, second thought. Our first thought is usually, not always, but usually not true, especially if it's grandiose, like, um, that person is out to get me if they like cut me off in traffic. Or I get a phone call from my boss, and my first thought is, I must be in trouble, right? Uh, what could your second thought be? Oh, I'm curious as to what they need. I'm curious as to why they're calling. And if I can approach it with curiosity, my anxiety decreases. If I can be curious about the person who cuts me off, oh, they must be in a hurry, right? Assuming the best in them. So if we can go with our second thought or generate a second thought, it gives us an opportunity to slow down, help us cultivate that awareness. And so this goes to our attitude, which is having an attitude of kindness. In other words, loving kindness, not only for others, but for ourselves, being really curious. And also, ooh, this is a biggie, non-judgmental. So really suspending judgment in the present moment. And that is difficult to do because we are constantly doing that. Our nervous system does it for us. Our nervous system might be active or tell us that it needs to be on alert, and then we become anxious, right? So we're judging the situation as oh, I don't know this stranger, so I need to like be weary of him or her or them. Or I don't know what's going to happen in this phone call, so I might want to just like start to feel anxiousness because that actually feels like we're doing something if we're worrying. And actually, worry doesn't help. It's staying grounded in that moment. So if we can have that attitude of not judging, right? Our body judges, our nervous system gives us information, but our thought actually can be changed to, oh, I'm curious about this. How can I offer generosity toward this, assuming the best? I'm going to jump to the next slide. So some of the benefits of mindfulness, we've talked about this so many times, and I hope if this is new or fresh for you, that uh, that this really helps. And this I wrote. This includes, I put yoga in here, but think about any movement practice you do: pickleball, walking, swimming. Um, Maybe you have a stretching practice. All of these different movement in the body creates change and is a catalyst for change. And it's within the bucket of mindfulness. So it improves brain function, lowers stress, increases flexibility, not just flexibility in the body, but in the mind. Lung capacity. So whether you practice a breathing practice or any kind of movement practice is going to change your heart rate, which will change your capacity for breathing. Lowers your blood pressure, reduces chronic pain. Did you know that mindfulness and breath work can actually turn the volume knob down for chronic pain? That's huge. Relieving anxiety, improving your sense of balance, not just in the body, but also in the mind as well. Increases your self-awareness, builds stronger bones. Now this one's I'm a little, it depends on the type of movement you do. Um, uh, you really need to do weight-bearing exercises in order to improve bone density and strength. But it depends on where you are. If you're completely sedentary, almost anything's like your own body weight would improve your bone density at first until you adapt to it. Calms the mind, fosters resiliency, and then back to the brain. I think remembering the value is so critical. So one of the ways in order to motivate yourself to do something, and especially something new, is to ask yourself, what am I getting? What is the benefit to this? And by reflecting on that benefit, it enables you to move in the direction of it. So if you can actually picture that reward, you can actually picture how this will change you physiologically, you will be much more likely to do it. Just like if you're picturing the worst happening, right? When you're feeling anxious, that like deters you or keeps you in a frozen state. But actually picturing momentum and movement can help you actually begin the practice of it. So, I'll shift my screens here. So, we're going to talk about some of the best practices for mindfulness. So, how do we create a pause? And some of these I'd love for you to jot down. And these are some of my favorites that I've shared throughout this year. So, creating the pause. If you leave the room, you need to come back. In other words, creating a pause by avoiding something actually can increase anxiety, but creating a pause in order to emotionally regulate or calm the nervous system and then you come back to it increases your resiliency. So there's a big difference there. Um, if you need to create a pause because the situation is dangerous or you're being attacked verbally or physically, that's a different situation. Your body's telling you to flee, and then hopefully your nervous system's able to regulate. But just taking space and creating pauses in a busy day and a hectic schedule, whether you're caregiving at home or you're long distance caregiving for someone who's in a facility at Cedarhurst, or whether you're at work, whatever your situation is, whether you're a sandwich caregiver, if you can create these little pauses or spaces and then come back, it will automatically increase your resiliency. In other words, you're you're rewiring your brain to be able to have capacity for difficult things. And that's critical. So the couple of ways that I create a pause. Thresholds. So when I'm feeling like I need to create a pause, I will walk through a doorway and imagine leaving my baggage or whatever it is that I'm dealing with in my chair, in my seat, or in that room. And I imagine walking through the doorway. Sometimes I'll even touch the door and I'll walk through and take a big exhale. If you want to take that exhale with me. So inhale and imagine yourself walking through a threshold and taking that exhale. If I cannot physically leave the space, I have on here view nature. I will look out my window. I'll flick through my phone and find, I actually have on my phone, I have a screensaver that's nature and it rotates. So I'll just tap my screen sometimes and I'll look at that photo or whatever the nature is, and that'll bring me back to this sense of calm or ease. Sometimes closing my eyes, so taking out that sensory input if I'm being bombarded, that helps me ground and stay present. Other grounding techniques, I'd love to hear you type in the chat if there's one that you've learned through this series, through the last 12 months. I'd love to hear that. I think it would be really useful for others if you want to type that into the chat box. And I'll share a couple more. One that we do a lot. And so whether you're seated or standing right now, in fact, if you've been sitting for a long time, I might encourage you to stand up. If you're standing, you could sit if you want, but just notice your feet. You can scrunch your toes, you can tap them, can stomp them. If you don't have access to your feet right now, you could use your hands as a substitute. You can open and close your fingers. You could rub your hands together. If you have your shoes off, you can kind of create some friction between your feet or your socks and the floor and feel them heat or warm up. And if after moving them for a few moments, if you notice there's a sensation there, can you tap into that tingling? Yeah. What I try to do and why I use my feet versus my hands if I can, it's the furthest from my thoughts. If I can get my attention somewhere low in my body, it's really helpful. Another one that I do is movement, just really gentle. So if you're seated or standing, you can do this with me. I'm going to roll one shoulder back and I'm going to twist and look behind me. So if you have the capacity right now to twist and look around behind you, and then I'll roll my arm or shoulder back and just notice the difference on the two sides of the body. And then roll my other shoulder, look back behind me. Might exhale. My back just popped. Then I'm going to roll my shoulder or arm back around. Ooh, I just noticed a little tingle through my shoulders. You can also do the same with your head or neck. You can do your jaw. You can open and close. Sometimes when I do that, it helps me yawn, and that's a reset for the nervous system. Yeah. So taking space, create a pause. If there's something you can do, and I often teach my clients to find what I call creating a speed bump. Anything you can do to slow yourself down. If you can slow down, you have more choices for responding rather than reacting. Okay, we're going to move to the next screen. Y'all are quiet today. All right, I know you're probably shocked to hear me say this. Check your phone. So technology is not going anywhere, right? And it's just getting more and more prevalent and a part of our connected daily lives. Maybe you have an app on your phone that helps you organize your caregiving. Maybe you have this is where you keep your appointments or calendars, or you're checking messages if you're needed. All of these things, we are more and more connected. So how do we use it in a way that's mindful? And these are some really simple things that you can help implement, I think, right away. And I would love to hear how you all, if you want to type in the chat, how you all use the phone to create more pauses, more spaciousness, and less anxiousness, right? So mindfulness helps us stay in our bodies and stay present. If I find I want to scroll, I actually have, I don't know how many of you use the Notes app. I have the Notes app, and it looks like the little yellow application there. If you have an iPhone, if you don't have an iPhone and have the Notes app, there are so many that are just free that you can utilize. And I have a note that's specific for quotes. And if I find I want to scroll through social media, they call that doom scrolling, right? If you're just doing that to sort of pass the time, or you're feeling anxious feelings, sometimes I find it's not helpful for my anxiety, but it actually makes it worse. But I'll go to my quotes and I'll share a quote that's popped up for me. This is from Mary Oliver. If you suddenly and unexpectedly feel joy, don't hesitate. Give into it. I think sometimes, especially as caregivers, no matter what your capacity is, we often feel that we don't deserve to feel those moments of joy. And I'm going to say that that's not true. You absolutely do deserve to feel those pockets. Someone wrote, my phone screen is always a loved one. And so I turn my phone on, do not disturb, when I need quiet moments for myself. So I love that. So one, you can make the phone screen something that feels reassuring, soothing for you, and you can activate the do not disturb. I would say that's a big one for me. I actually have restrictions, and there's something called screen time. And you can actually modulate and set timers for specific apps that you're trying to restrict. And I find that really, really helpful. Because if I it keeps me from mindlessly doing it. If I know I only have an hour to go on a certain social media or a certain app, I'm going to be much more restrictive and self-modulating than if I didn't. Um, you can also look at photos that inspire you or that calm you. I have, now sometimes it pops up certain photos that don't feel resourceful. Maybe it's someone who's no longer living or in my life, or someone that that feels triggering for me that's no longer in my life. I can delete some of those photos, and that makes me feel better. So you can take action, and the phone doesn't control you; you control it. I also play songs that feel soothing. There's a way to create a playlist that helps increase mood capacity, and this is part of music therapy. So you can start with a song that meets you where you're at and play that. So if you're feeling sad, play a sad song, but then let the next song be just a little bit more encouraging, and then the next one can be just a little bit more uplifting. And then the next one can just be a little bit better, a little bit more embracing. So I have a little playlist that I've made like that, that kind of stair steps me up. In other words, I don't deny my sadness. I let myself really feel it and have a moment. And then I want to move in the direction of feeling more grounded and edified. You can set a timer to breathe, and I'm going to show you and give you a link for that in just a minute. Um, one thing, instead of just mindlessly texting, one thing that I try to do when I'm feeling like I need encouragement, I'll often text a friend from a state of curiosity. Hey, Shelby, how did that presentation go? I'd love to hear. Hey, Dad, I'm just thinking of you. Do you need me to shovel some snow? um, my son, hey, do you need me to bring you some dinner on the way home? Like, I'm asking and being curious. How are you feeling about your schoolwork or your exams coming up? Texting my mom, hey, how did that doctor appointment go? Are you feeling better now? I'm getting out of myself and moving into questions, and not a yes or no question, but an open ended question, a question that enables them to elaborate a little bit and feel seen and heard. And that automatically gives me a serotonin hit. And then I start to feel better as well. So if you can come up with ways, or if you have other ways that create non-doing on your phone that feel restful for you, I would love to hear it. I certainly have a few more. I would say another one is there's a way to go to your settings and accessibility and play white noise or rain. And it has other sounds. If you are interested in that, you can Google how to play white noise on your iPhone or your Android phone. And it's actually already included on your phone. And I find that's really helpful when things in my environment are out of my control and I feel a little bombarded or even triggered. It helps me kind of move into center, especially if I'm traveling. All right, I'm gonna share my screen here, and we're gonna look at something that I absolutely love. Let's see, hang on a second. All right. These are called breathing GIFs, and you've probably seen them somewhere on your social media apps, and I've added it to the chat box. And if you're getting this recording later via email, hopefully it was included for you in that. Otherwise, you can Google breathing GIF or GIF, however you want to say it. So I'm going to share my screen here. Um, this one's a little quick for me. I'm going to go, let's just go to this one that says box breathing. So wait for if you can see the little ball Wait for it to go up to the top and we'll all start together. So here it's telling you to breathe in, hold, and breathe out. And hold. Breathe in, hold, and breathe out. And hold. Let's do one more round together. Breathe in, breathe out. Oh, breathe, unhold, sorry. And then breathe out. And hold. And just breathe normally. So there's several here. These are more regulated. So you're breathing in for 4, and then holding, and then breathing out for 4. So if you remember, we talked about breathing. Inhalations increase and are sympathetic to the nervous system, meaning they increase your energy. Holding develops your lung capacity and also something called heart rate variability. In other words, your capacity to decrease your heart rate quickly when it gets elevated. And then exhaling, what that does is it actually calms the body or de-escalates, thumbs down, de-escalate. Inhale, increasing energy, exhale, decreasing or calming. And you can Google these. There's a ton of different ones. There's some that look like the ocean. I actually have a free timer on my phone that does the same thing. And it's like waves, ocean waves. So I'll give a couple of these options when I send out the email, but I find them so helpful and as a reminder of helping regulate the breath. Shall we do one more? This one, let's do this one, the 4-2-4. So let's wait for it to come around again. Yeah, so you can exhale here, exhaling fully and holding the breath for 2. Inhale. Oh, sorry, it's on the wrong path here. Ooh, that's really quick, isn't it? Okay, here we go. Exhale. And then at the top, breathe in. Breathe and hold. Exhale. Breathe in. Hold. Exhale. Last one. Breathe in. Hold. And exhale. Good. And then just breathe normally. And take a moment. You can look aside to the screen. How does that feel in your body after doing that exercise? Is there a softness or settling? Is there an energized feel? So just notice for a moment how that feels in the body. And when you're ready, you can come back to the screen. Feel free to type down how that felt for you. We'd love to hear. And if you've never done some of those apps, would love for you to let me know how that goes the next time that we meet. All right. Best practices for mindfulness. And this one, our theme is, who we are without the doing. Rest. Rest is critical. Are there ever any opportunities, and maybe some of you do this, but to get horizontal, to actually lie down? I don't know if you have capacity to do that. I actually will sometimes close my office door if you have a space where you can do that. If you're out in a public space, you can even just create a space in your chair, and I'll show you how to do that. I scoot toward the edge of my chair and I'll lean back and I'll let my head go back or my arms open up, and I'll press my feet into the floor and exhale. And I'll do that again, closing my eyes, inhaling, and then exhale. And then if you want to join me in stretching your arms up, oh, that makes me want to yawn. And then I can lift and come back up to upright. But even just letting yourself recline a little in your chair, doesn't we did that in less than a minute. Finding little pockets of ways to change your trajectory of your torso or your spine will create a reset and enable you to become more aware of what's happening in your body. Anything you can do to hit that reset. If you have the ability to lie down. So you can see I've got a chair behind me and a little pillow in there. I'll put the pillow behind my head and I'll put my legs over the chair. So I'll lie completely flat on the floor if it's possible for you, if you have the capacity to do that. Another one I love if you're at home is legs over the couch. So I'll lie down on the ground and I'll take one of the pillows from the couch and I'll put my legs right on that cushion or an ottoman. And this actually gives us the capacity, it tells the body we're not in bed, but it tells the body that we're actually intentionally lying down to find stillness. Some of you might be really uncomfortable with stillness. So sometimes I'll set a timer so that I don't worry about how long am I going to lay here. Sometimes I'll play a free meditation. Um, uh, I have a meditation app that I use. There's Insight Timer, which is a really great one that does free ones. Headspace does some free meditations. I'll send a few links for those, and they're really specific. You can do either 3 to 5 minutes, or if you've got up to 15 minutes. Ideally, you're doing somewhere between 5 and 20 minutes if you have the capacity for that. As far as timing and best time of day, you might look for when your usual slump in energy is. So for me, that's like the just right after lunch, or sometimes 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon if I've got to make it to 5. Whatever my slump in energy is. If that isn't possible, you can take a quick walk up and down the hallway and then sit and notice the difference. Where your energy might have been stagnant, doing a quick brisk walk around the house, walk around the living room, walk around the hallway, and then come back and then notice what's changed or what's different. I also love playing body scans. I love guided ones if I can. If not, I will do one myself. And this is one that we do often, and I call it head, shoulders, knees, and toes. And I think we did that last week or the week before. Um, um, we'll do it together now. So breath in, take your eyes off the screen. You're thinking head, so I'm going to relax. So it's almost like you're imagining. I'm going to relax my forehead, my eyebrows. I'm going to relax my jaw, my teeth, my tongue. Shoulders, I'm going to let the shoulders drop away from my ears, or if I can't tell if they are, I might lift them and then drop them down. And I'm going to move further down through my pelvis. Notice the weight of that. Relax my legs. So that's the knee part. Relax the legs. And then my toes, toes to ground, head, shoulders, knees, and toes. And you can bring your body and your eyes back to the screen. I'm going to read this quote to you from Joan Sutherland, and she writes, "Rest isn't laziness. It's feeling the way the earth cups you when you lie down. It's listening to everything resting around us, refusing to be riled by what usually riles us. Paying attention to the small voices drowned out by the chorus of our busyness and the long days of other seasons. Whole fields inside us go fallow, and we begin to know that there is something very large and entirely radiant that is pregnant within us. I love that reassurance. Rest is not laziness. They are not synonymous. They're incongruent, actually. Rest is what helps us build stores of energy in order for us to have the capacity to do what we need to do. I love that. Rest is actually empowering. I want to offer one more for you today as we close up together. This one is called putting down a stone. And it can be metaphorically, it can be physically. So take a moment. You can take your eyes just a little off the screen. And if it makes sense for you, you can jot things down almost like a list, or you can just reflect on them. What are the things that I am carrying right now that I don't need to? And let's start with the physical things. Is is there literally something on my body that I could take off that feels heavy? Right now, I kind of take off my glasses, notice the lightness on my face. Take off my shoes if they feel really heavy. So, is there something physically? Next, is there an emotion that's coming up that feels really heavy that you can put down? Maybe there's a sadness that's creeping up and you can feel that for a moment. And then you can decide what you'd like to do with that sadness. Or maybe there's an energy that's kind of building up. Is there an emotion that you can set down like a stone? Is there a thought or a belief that you have? Maybe as a caregiver, it's that I'm the only one who can do this. I'm the only one who knows how. Um, Maybe it's that you're not enough. One that I hear a lot is I'll hear people say, I am stressed. And you want to remember that you are not the emotion. Actually, who you are is peace. And you might be experiencing stress, but who you are is actually peacefulness inside that part of you that you value most, underneath all of that, who you were as a child, right? Peace, playfulness. What else can you be curious about? Is there anything else that you want to set down that you've been carrying? In other words, that metaphorical burden that you've been holding on to and gripping. And maybe you just want to put it down just for this exercise, and you can pick it right back up if you want. But what can you put down just for the remainder of our time together? What would it feel like in just these few moments to know there's nothing to fix, there's nothing to change. You can just simply be. Hmm. When you're ready, you can bring your eyes back. One thing, I work with families quite a lot, and I hear often other people's stones being um, the desire to make everything perfect. So, perfectionism, the desire to fix or change somebody else, when really all we have control over is our own emotions and our own attitudes, right? Um, we want our situation to be different, and sometimes acceptance is what's needed because everything is a season. It will eventually change, but sometimes we need acceptance in the moment. So I'm curious if you want to share what stones you might have um, wanted to put down. Linda commented, it felt freeing. Beautiful. I'm really happy to hear that. Yeah. Yeah. I think that is a really powerful practice. Put down a stone. All right. Well, we are excited to come back for the new year. And in January, we'll be here. I think the I don't think the first week in January because that actually falls on a holiday day. I'm not sure. I'll double check, but we'll send out a reminder to let you guys know. Any other questions or comments or anything you'd like to add to the chat box? I'd love to hear it. And if you're watching this on the recording, you can hit reply to any of your emails from Cedarhurst and give us some feedback. We also curate a wellness newsletter every month. And if you want to be sure that you're getting that, and if you're not getting it, you can always hit reply to these emails that you get with the Zoom link. That would be really wonderful. Oh, fantastic. Thanks, Linda. I appreciate that comment. Yeah, it's good to feel like at least for this time together corporately, we can put down that stone together and feel some relaxation and some ease. So I'm grateful for each of you. Thank you all so much.